What if I told you that the most honest, unfiltered biography of your life, it isn't on your social media, but it's actually in your garbage can? We think of trash as the end of the story, right? But it's actually a secret history of who we are, what we do, and what we truly value. So let's go ahead and lift the lid on this hidden world. And this quote from A.J. Weberman, who called himself a garbage gorilla, man, it just perfectly captures where we're going with this. This guy made a name for himself back in the 70s by digging through the trash of celebrities like Bob Dylan. And his point was so simple but so provocative. Our discards don't lie. They tell the truth, even when we won't. And look, this isn't just about snooping. It's a legitimate field of study, garbology. It's basically applying archaeological methods to our modern trash to understand human behavior. So think of it as a science built on one really simple but powerful idea. Our garbage is a data stream, and it's broadcasting some of our society's most surprising truths. So, if our trash is a code, what happens when we crack it? I mean, what secrets does it really hold about our daily lives? It sounds totally incredible, right? But the answer is a resounding yes. Believe it or not, back in the 1980s, the U.S. Census Bureau actually went to researchers from the University of Arizona's Garbage Project for help. They were having a really hard time counting certain populations, like undocumented residents who, for pretty obvious reasons, don't exactly want to be counted. This right here gets to the absolute heart of what these researchers found again and again and again. There's this huge gap between what we say we do and what our trash reveals we actually do. So the researchers would survey households about their habits, and then they'd literally sort their trash. And guess what? The two stories often didn't match up. The classic example is alcohol. People consistently, and I mean consistently, underreported how much beer they drank. But the empty cans and bottles in their trash, well, they told a very different and much more accurate story. And this is where garbology gets really, really powerful. By sifting through mountains of trash, the project uncovered all sorts of behaviors that just seemed to go against common sense. People would claim to eat healthy, but their trash was just full of junk food wrappers. Get this. During beef shortages, food waste actually went up because people would buy these unfamiliar cuts of meat, have no idea how to cook them, and just end up throwing them out. They even figured out that plastic waste was a kind of great equalizer. Every single person generates about the same amount. That made it a surprisingly accurate way to count the population in a neighborhood, even better than the census in some areas. Wild, right? Okay, so let's zoom out. Let's go from individual trash cans to the massive story our garbage tells altogether. Because every single piece of trash we throw away joins this mountain of evidence. It's like an unintentional archive of our entire civilization. We all have this mental image of a landfill, don't we? We think of it as this place of decay, this giant compost pile, where our trash just breaks down and goes back to the earth. But is that what's actually happening in there? Okay, here's the reality, and it is a big one. Modern landfills are not designed to break things down. In fact, they're designed to do the complete opposite. They're made to entomb our waste, to keep it stable and dry and sealed off from air and water. Why? To prevent contamination. So the result isn't a compost pile. It's a massive, perfectly preserved tomb, a mummifier. When garbagologists actually went and excavated these landfills, what they found was just astonishing. I mean, they pulled out newspapers from the 1950s that were still perfectly readable. They found intact hot dogs, carrots, even heads of lettuce that had been buried for decades. The whole myth of rapid biodegradation was just busted. They learned that the bulk of what fills our landfills isn't what we think, like styrofoam or diapers. Nope, it's paper products and construction debris, things we just assume disappear, but are instead perfectly preserved for some future archaeologist to find. And the scale of this is just mind-boggling. When New York City's Fresh Kills landfill, which was once the largest in the world, finally closed down, the city was suddenly faced with a staggering number, 22 million. That is how many tons of waste they had to deal with every single day with nowhere for it to go. I mean, it set off a financial tsunami, as the cost to ship all that trash to landfills in other states just skyrocketed. So this brings us to an even bigger picture. Our trash doesn't just vanish. It enters this vast, incredibly complex, and often invisible global system of movement, labor, and, politics. And you know what? This global system has a human face. In places like Cairo, there are entire communities, the Zabaleen, who have built one of the world's most efficient recycling systems. And this wasn't some government program. It's a generations-old informal economy. They collect the city's waste and they sort it all by hand, creating value from what everyone else has thrown away. You see similar stories all over the globe with waste pickers, or pepenadores, in Mexico, who are a crucial but often completely overlooked part of the whole waste management chain. But this global flow of waste, it also reveals a really stark pattern of what's often called environmental injustice. I mean, just look at MLL, Alabama. It's a poor, mostly African-American town that happens to be home to the largest hazardous waste landfill in the United States. Or think about how Pennsylvania became a prime destination for East Coast garbage, creating these super powerful industry lobbies. And on a global scale, it gets even worse. Hazardous waste is often illegally shipped from developed to developing nations who are then left to deal with the toxic mess. So all of this leads to the final, really fundamental question. Why? Why do we produce so much waste in the first place? Well, the answer lies in the very design of our modern culture. You see, this throwaway culture didn't just appear out of thin air. It was designed, and you can actually trace its origins back over a century. It starts with a simple idea, like King C. Gillette's disposable razor blade in 1895. By the 1920s, manufacturers figured out that for profits to keep rolling in, products couldn't last forever. This idea just exploded after World War II with the rise of advertising. And today, well, today it's just the norm, especially with our electronics, where we're basically encouraged to get a new phone every couple of years. And this strategy, it has a name: planned obsolescence. It's a deliberate policy of designing products to fail, to go out of style, or to be impossible to repair. It is the engine of our throwaway economy, and it makes sure that we keep buying new things to replace the old ones. And this whole strategy taps into a really powerful psychological driver. As the economist John Kenneth Galbraith pointed out, marketers in the post-war era realized that the desire to keep up with the Joneses was incredibly powerful. The social pressure to show off your status through your possessions could be so strong that people would actually prioritize their wants over their real needs. And all of this, it brings us to right here, right now. We're living in the most materially saturated society in history. There was this one study called Life at Home in the 21st Century that documented how our homes are just completely overwhelmed with stuff. And this isn't just an environmental issue, it's a personal one. All this clutter has been shown to cause measurable physiological stress. It literally raises cortisol levels in families who are just trying to manage it all. So we end up right back where we started. If future archaeologists dig through the landfills of our time, our great mummified archives, what story are they going to piece together? What will our mountains of perfectly preserved plastic, our discarded electronics, and just our layers and layers of stuff, what will it all say about our values, our priorities, and the paradoxes of our 21st century lives? It's a question definitely worth thinking about the next time you take out the trash.